Oh, we do it all again. It's Footy and Frothies. Daggy and Barney are with you. David, you're stuck with me for another hour and a half to talk all things National Rugby League as the competition has wrapped up. We're in Studio B this evening at the Grey Gums Hotel. Hello to everyone in YouTube. What's going on?
Probably a better background, but
It's all right, actually.
yeah.
I probably won't ask you how your week was, but
Tough couple of days, mate.
Hi, mate.
But we're still here. We're still kicking. Life goes on.
it does.
But,
and
Yeah. So how have you been? How was your weekend?
yeah, good.
Good Father's Day.
Yeah, got a couple of nice
Saw some videos
prints
of
for
some
the
presents
wall at
and
home,
cards.
and came down and had a few beers with Vince in the afternoon. So
Oh, lovely.
can't complain as I leave awkward beer silence in the middle there. But no, it's been all right. So it's been all right. Just beautiful weather in Sydney town.
Wasn't it?
Magnificent evening again tonight, and looks like it's going to be perfect weather for the first round of the finals, at least in Sydney. Arun's
Just
dancing.
being harassed by the bar staff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, up on Instagram, thanks, Arun. Might need a power cord soon. Anyway, yeah, so we soldier on. But it was what it was, footy. Like, what do we... This will be an interesting review
Some
show. 'cause what
fantastic
do you...
games of footy and some not so good games over the weekend. I think we saw a couple of games that were probably close to the best games of the year, to be honest. And the other 5 or 6 were probably pretty average.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. We'll get to it, but especially that Thursday night game was a lot of fun, but that's the byproduct of slow line speed and a bit more space for quality players and that sort of thing as well, I think.
Yeah, but I think we saw a lot of skill from a few of those young blokes coming through as well, to be honest.
Yeah. And no fear for some of those kids, which we'll talk about.
Definitely wasn't as physical as what you're going to see this week with the same two teams lining up. But
not at all, but it was a lot of fun, as I said. I enjoyed that game. I enjoyed a couple of these and turned at least one off before half-time. But
you didn't get through it?
We'll get to did not get through that.
Okay.
Anyway, I want to give a shout-out, first of all, to the Supercoach, couple of Supercoach winners. Our comps are wrapped up, but we had to mention, I guess, their overall standings. Mm-hmm. And as mentioned, touched on last week, Cooper Maker won the Frothing Footies comp and Jack won the Footy and Frothies comp. But just a couple of shout-outs. Cooper Maker finished top 1,000, 883.
Beautiful.
Lloyd, so he's had a good weekend, Lloyd. All
Apparently he had a second account that finished in the top 100.
Really?
So, but yes.
Actually?
Yeah.
Why didn't he play that one in these comps?
I don't know. He played them somewhere else and made a bit of money, apparently. So, but yeah,
Right.
I saw a bit of a discussion online with Luke, who's another comp that we both play in, and apparently his second account was inside the top 100. So,
Got a couple of tracksuits. 3XL if you need a spare. And GT finished 1,407th overall, so top 1%. He was quite chuffed.
yep.
And Fisho 1,832. So some good
Lovely.
results all round. They were high quality comps.
They were.
And we'll do it all again and torture ourselves through it all again. But given he's taken it all, he does listen to the show, Lloyd. So if he is in Western Sydney and wants to come on to the Supercoach preview next year, reach out to us. He might even have a hat for him along
I
the
think
way.
Lloyd's a Kiwi, isn't he?
He might be. We have
I'm
Zoom now
pretty
as
sure
well.
he's over there. But he's obviously got a very good take on the way the Supercoach goes together. We've got a few blokes in GT. Boom didn't have a bad year. I think we were both inside the top 15% or something. So that's nothing really to be sneezed at either, considering there's 140,000 people, and you finish in front of over 100,000 of them. That's not too bad.
Quality competition. Thanks to everyone that took part in that. Only other Supercoach comment I want to make is I saw yet another sniper team win the team of the week. Honestly, Supercoach, you dorks there. If you are going to give away weekly prizes, to me, if you haven't signed up by, say, round 3, you should be eligible.
Yeah.
No matter what
simple.
you do. Like, what a wank to give away, to have these teams going and just pick, especially this weekend where they had the Nicaramas and all sorts of people in their team that obviously they weren't carrying all year.
Or at least to have to be, running a team for 6 or 8 weeks before you become eligible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they can do well to get rid of the end of them because it was rampant again this year.
Yeah, it always happens Origin time in the last couple of rounds every year. Someone creates a new account and jumps in and 1,800 points, I think it was.
Yeah.
Massive score.
Ridiculous.
But,
Exactly. The PCTC has been decided. Have you got the overall winner as well as
I do have the
Frothy's
overall winner. That was
again, thanks to Gaz and everything going on there. Just quickly before we get to it, the Spring
bloke.
Carnival is in full spring,
Taz.
full
3-4 weeks in.
full pomp.
Yep.
And going well. So, but he's got every sport under the sun covered these days. If you search PCTC tipping on Facebook, but more importantly, who won the comps here?
Yeah, you want to get into a tipping comp for just about any sport that's out there? Hit up PCTC tipping. Prouty was the overall winner, 148 points. He was first overall in the competition. Then we came back to our first overall in the footy and frothies comp. It was the missus on 140 points. She finished 15th overall. Second was RAH434, 24th overall and second in our comp. And Boom snuck into third. Danon with 137 points, 27th overall, but third in the footy and frothies comp on 135 points. Our fantastic leader of the PCTC tipping, Gaz, managed to sneak into sixth, 35th overall, 134 points. Daggy, seventh in the footy and frothies, 39th overall of about 68 people, I think it was, and 132 points. Made up some big ground at the back end of the year. I think the last 10 weeks you were pretty much on fire. Yeah. And I finished 11th in the footy and frothies comp, 60th overall on 122.
And Mariah finished last, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, and Ollie wasn't far behind.
Yes.
But I managed to make up about 5 or 6 spots. My last 5 or 6 weeks were pretty good. I tipped the round on the show and then did something different on the on the tipping comp.
But well done to everyone involved there. As fantastic comps, we'll be back doing it with them again next year. Look forward to all of that. It starts early. We'll start pushing that out in February next year. Injury news. Connor Tracy has suffered a knee injury, but he's been named this week, so it's undetermined.
So is Kennedy, though. I was
going to say, there's a sneaky Will Kennedy name in that squad as well, which we'll get to in the preview. Dan Tupou is going to miss the majority of the final series with a knee injury as well.
Okay.
So I still undetermined what that is, but it's no good. And apparently there's an injury cloud on Luke Summerton, but I saw he was named an extended squad today.
Okay.
I guess, again, we'll watch this spot, but no reserve hooker, which is interesting.
Some question marks around Manu as well.
And Manu still
been
has been
limping
named,
around for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he comes off the injury the other week. Judiciary news. Seb Chris will be missing the finals and most likely a fair chunk of the start of next year after trying to drive Katoa through the ground.
The only Katoa's head.
It was actually quite nasty. It wasn't far from being a McKinnon-style incident. It was pretty bad, so I don't really have a complaint about that.
No, yeah, I've seen it sin binned other days, but yeah, these days it's pretty much an automatic send off when you get them up in 90 degrees to the. We get them up that vertical and drop them straight on their head.
Well, the most recent dumping send off I can think of was Cleary last year, and this was 10 times worse than that. Mm-hmm. So, can't complain. I think hopefully he's learned. I know it's like everything. There's a bit of momentum and everything involved, but it wasn't particularly good. Signing news.
Ooh.
Cam Murray has re-signed with Souths till 2028, and Dylan Edwards has signed a approximately $900K a year deal with the Panthers until 2028. Does that make him a $900K better fullback than me? Probably.
Than you? Yes. I'd say a $1.5 million better fullback than you.
But I guess well deserved on a couple of great years.
Absolutely. He's been in that, pretty much pushing his way into that marquee position for the last few years. He's been you'd have to have him in your top 3, well, top 5 at worst, year in, year out for the last 3 years. So.
And that has resulted in, allegedly, according to media today, basically Penrith telling Luai that he's looking at around a figure of 700, 750
at the most.
Maybe maxing out 8. We'll see whether he takes that and is happy or whether he goes to open market. He could look, a dumb club like the Tigers would probably give him $1 million. I suspect he'd probably take the money, but we'll see. I don't know. I don't want to cast any aspersions. Maybe he's happy with that and happy living life.
It was a little bit around with his because he's left his management agency, apparently they've turned around and said, if you want to do a deal directly with the club yourself, you can do it. But otherwise, you have to wait
can't use
90
management.
days if you bring in another management company, which
as
takes him out past the November
Yeah.
1 deadline.
As a result, there's no. There's been no official offer tabled. Due
You'd
to that
save
reason.
6 to 10% on management fees.
Probably make that. Yeah, that's right.
So-
if you're signing a direct comp, it's probably not a bad deal if
So
you
it's
take
probably
into account.
If you give him the full
As good as
800,
not, you
you're
know.
probably pushing up to 860, 870 if
exactly.
you're doing the deal yourself. But
It's it's the worst ways to live life. So you can keep winning comps and make 800 a year.
yeah, because obviously what's 6%? It's about 60 grand, 50 to 60 grand. So that you'd have to pay a manager.
Yeah.
If you don't have to do that, that's an extra 50 grand for you. But
Exactly. But we'll see where it heads. As I said, I'm sure some club will throw $1 million at him, and if he's so inclined, he might well take it. And more power to him if he does. It's not an aspersion. It's just
no,
what
absolutely
he's
not.
after in life, doing the best he can. Any other news you want to discuss?
Well, he's done plenty of work at Penrith already. Got a couple of rings. Could possibly be 3 by the time he's done, And
Fair chance.
he's probably got, 5-6 years left in him? Maybe a
Maybe
fraction more. But
Depends. If Penrith offered him 5 years at that price, you'd
he's
be mad
going
not to
to
take
make
it.
that money. Go make that money.
And Brad Schneider has been signed
Yes.
to come back to Penrith to cover
Place
Jack Cogger, who's
Cogger.
on the way out.
Yep.
Good signing, He's
Think
got
so,
his job to
yeah.
do for a month, a year, and cool.
Surprised he wasn't given more opportunity at the Raiders before he was pushed out to the Super League, to be honest. Anyone that was listening at the start of the year would have heard that I thought he was a very skillful player and someone that had a definite future. So what better place to go to and be an understudy than the best halfback or
Exactly.
the second best halfback? Either way you look at it, one of the best halfbacks in the comp. Everyone that's been under in that Penrith system from the last couple of years has got a decent job somewhere else. Sullivan's picked
Cogger.
up some money. Katoa,
Cogger.
Cogger's now gone off back to Newcastle. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a bad place to come and learn. So, good luck to him. Any other news you want to touch on? I know there's been a lot of bullshit around the Bulldogs and South and whatever else, but I don't think there's a lot that hasn't been discussed elsewhere or we didn't discuss last week, really.
No, not at all.
Let's get through our last season proper review of 2023 as we kicked off on Thursday night with an entertaining game, 32-22, the Storm defeating the Broncos. What did the stats say, Mark?
3 tries to Brisbane, 6 to the Storm. 3 out of 3 conversions played, 4 out of 6. 2 out of 2 penalty attempts. Brisbane with 72% completion. The Storm with 85%. 104 plus running metres for Melbourne. 5 line breaks to 6. 32 tackle busts to 42. 10 offloads to 6. 3 forced dropouts to 1. 327 tackles played, 337. 10 errors to 6, 4 penalties conceded to 5, 4 ruck infringements to 1. A sin bin against the Storm team. Tristan Saylor with 123 Supercoach points. Anderson with 96 and Pereira with 85.
Sounds like you really enjoyed this game, so you may as well.
I thought it was a
have first
fantastic game of rugby league, mate. Lot of quality football. And a whole heap of young kids stepping up into first grade that really put out some really good performances. Or some of them that we've seen before in the likes of Anderson and Tristan Saylor, but still not fully exposed yet. And a few guys that we haven't really seen here that played some pretty good football, I thought. Captain Flegler's got managed to score. I think that was the first game he's ever captained, and he barges over for the first try of the game. A little bit of footwork, but that was pretty soft there, to be honest, from the Broncos. I really loved what I saw from Tristan Saylor. The cutout pass for that for the second try of the game was just like he's thrown it over 4 or 5 blokes' heads and got it out to the winger, and there was no one anywhere near him. They couldn't even touch him, I think, before he put the ball down. Storm made a couple of errors, and Brisbane managed to bounce again. But
Well, for a good 50 minutes, Brisbane were clearly the better team, and Saylor was the star of the show. He was in the right spot defensively, in attack, not just those touches. He was fantastic all night. He looked dangerous every time he had the ball. His kick
just sort of
returns were
half
sharp.
Yeah. He's old Madden throwing bludger passes and intercepts down the other end of the field.
But that started the ride actually. But we'll get to that, and we'll get to that halves. But as I said, I do want to temper a little bit because I think this was a reserve grade game with good players involved in terms of intensity, line speed.
Yeah.
If you watch the Brisbane line speed this week, it's not going to be what.
Oh yeah,
they were
and the
serving up
middles,
here.
the
middles
aren't going to get cut apart
That's
by
right.
the back, the outside
but
backs. Like
you're
the
allowed to
Storm did.
you're allowed to say they played well. I thought young Rogers looked the most likely of the Brisbane halves. He looked far better than Jock at
absolutely
times.
did.
And apparently, Action said they as a pairing they do quite well week in, week out. But
Yeah, well, he plays with Sailor, doesn't he?
I think he's Sailor's
I thought
fullback.
Sailor's playing 5'8".
He might be
with
right.
Rogers.
If Sailor's got
sure
5'8" in the future,
Mm.
that's very interesting. If he's when Reynolds goes, whether
I'm pretty sure that conversation was that Sailor and Rogers play halves.
I thought
for,
it was Jock and Rogers,
yeah,
but either way, someone will tell us what. It was probably the bloke in question who told
more
us in
than
the first
likely.
place. But I loved what I saw. I think he's a genuine first grader. It's just where he finds a home and what he finds a home doing. Whether it's time to just back him on a wing or in the centre next year.
He's got to be He's got to be there somewhere.
Yeah.
They're losing what, a centre and a winger and someone else.
I think
so.
Oates is being crowbarred out.
I'd love to see him in there somewhere, even if they play him as a 14, and do give him a bit of time at hooker, a bit of time at 6. I think he'd handle all those sort of spine positions. Realistically, he's not the smallest guy in the world, and I think you could throw him in for a bit at hooker and.
He could easily play 14.
And,
He can handle 20 minutes in the back row.
Play a bit of back row at 13.
Yeah.
Link man. But, it was very impressive, I thought. The outside backs for mine were what really got the Storm up and going. The likes of Anderson and Olam and that coming in and taking some of that pressure off their
Well, we
forwards.
haven't seen Anderson all year, have we? He played quite a bit
I
last
think
year.
he played one.
Last
Might
year.
have played 1 or 2 games early. But
It's just about his best showing.
yeah, definitely. And they got in and started getting the Broncos forwards sort of a bit all over the place, really, beating them with footwork and speed and cutting open the middle of the field, and then they're doing it out wide as well. But big turning point for mine was when the Broncos couldn't capitalise with Remus Smith in the bin for 10 minutes. They had a lot of ball. They were down there. They had plenty of opportunities, and Storm. Scramble defence was fantastic. They kept them out during that time. But their defence was very good, and that was probably the difference in the game. To be honest, the benches were a complete contrast. Like the Broncos bench was trash, realistically. Apart from Marty Tapau, the other 3 blokes weren't worth feeding that came off the bench for the Broncos. Whereas
just quickly, Moses has been one you've been waiting for. I suppose it's hard to tell if one appears like that.
He only played about 10 or 15 minutes, I think, and had very little involvement.
It's going to be mentioned.
Just sort of
if you've been
pick
playing
up
in
and
your first
pass.
grade, so you mentioned 5 times every game. But an odd build for a hooker.
Pretty
6'3" and
tall, lanky. And
Yeah.
it is interesting. But the whole bench for the Storm were good. Howarth, one that was tipped at the start of the year, I thought he was tremendous, making his debut here for the Storm, coming off the bench. Farlogo, man, that pace and footwork was outstanding.
The old cliche, you can't teach pace, but he blew them away on 2 or 3 occasions. Well, a couple of tries.
Those steps as well, and the fact that he put Pappy away, and Pappy was sort of angling towards the wing, and he just went, "What the fuck are you doing?" and ran around him to his outside. I'm like, "Okay, give me the ball now. You're not going fast enough." that was pretty entertaining, and it was probably the try of the match, really.
And a great finish too. And actually across this
corner.
weekend, and we said everyone, but God, there were some fucking special finishes this weekend in just about every game. If you went back and showed wingers 10 years ago, so highlights of this weekend, they would be losing their mind because finishes in.
I just don't understand how half of them are able to control the ball the way that they do when all those different angles that they get themselves involved in. Paliasia, Piakura and Flegler were good in the middle for the Broncos. Their halves were okay, but nothing outstanding. Pereira and Deloise Hoyter, I thought, had good games, as did Jordan Ricky. getting very distracted in here, considering
sorry.
normally we
We
don't.
just sit outside with a bunch of drunks and somebody getting distracted by
It's the bright
friendly
lights
looking
and the
fella
noises,
with
the beeping noises, I think.
gosh,
But
quite cozy now. I like it.
I thought Jensen was great. I thought Corey Jensen had a fucking
Yes, he
brilliant game. 40-odd tackles for one miss and plenty of work in the middle of the field. And Tristan Saylor was stupendous. In a losing team for mine, he was the man in the match. Moreau was the best of the forwards for the Storm. Olam, Tonamapia and Nicarima all had very good games. Farlago, I thought Wishart was really good in the halves for the Storm. I know we've seen him a bit now, but he hasn't. I don't think you've given him a full crack in the halves.
Not in the halves. No, he's played. I think he's played hooker and fullback.
Yeah, I know they've got Jonah Pezzett there as well, but obviously there's some there's a bit of skill in and around that spine.
Pappy was great. Pappy played basically every position in the spine through the second half.
He did, didn't he? He was
Once
just
Fail only
switching
came
and
on, he
changing.
played first receiver, second receiver, dummy half.
Bit of 13.
And I thought he was very, very good as well.
Oh yeah, I was just about to get to him and Anderson. They were the two best players for the Melbourne side. Had Saylor with 3. I gave 2 to Anderson. Thought a lot of his runs up that left-hand edge of the field were instrumental for the Storm. And then I had either Pappenhausen or Jensen for the one.
It was a tricky one, but the 4, I had Sailor man of the match too, so I don't disagree with you on that. A breakout game, if he hasn't had enough breakout games yet. Actually, funny moment when they showed Wendell in the crowd and Wendell was busy waving for himself, and old mate Max Caster, Tristan Saylor, was rolling his eyes. And then I was a toss-up between Pappy, Jensen, Anderson, and I thought Fairlongo is probably worthy of a point, but given he broke the game open when he came on, happy to go. Given they won, we'll go Pappy and Anderson, I guess. Mm-hmm. But honorary mention, I thought Corey Jensen was
far
phenomenal
longer
in the same effort. The ultimate question from this game is: do you even read anything into it? Come when we get to next week?
Not a chance.
No way. And I think it's the same when we get to the Warriors. When people go, "Oh, they lost the week out," do you think they're worried? And if I think they're not worried, then why should I worry?
Well, both the halves will be different for both teams.
Exactly.
You got basically the whole new forward pack coming in for the Broncos. There was 2 or 3 that'll be coming in for the Storm as well.
And you know what?
It's going to be 8 or 9 changes.
You know
from
what
both
Kevy
sides.
signed up for last week, and you know what Kevy signed up for this week.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think that you just go, okay. Like I said, if they're not worried about it, which they wouldn't be, you start again and you read nothing into it. Same as when we get, I think a little bit same when we get the Warriors.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, we'll move on to 54-12, Manly over the Tigers. And talk about some. This was actually disgraceful, and I turned it off at half time. When you're watching blokes pass under 7 style to other blokes over the try line in first grade rugby league, you have to ask questions about your state of life. But talk about it, because I'm going to go pee, and I don't really care that much.
10 tries to 2, 7 out of 10 conversions played, 2 out of 2 for the Tigers. 76% completion played, 81%, 902 plus running metres and 152 plus post-contact metres for the Manly side. 16 line breaks to 3, 59 tackle busts to 26, 13 offloads to 8. 1 forced dropout for the Manly team, 276 tackles played, 291. 12 errors by Manly, 8 by the Tigers. 5 penalties conceded to 4. 2 ruck infringements to 0. 1 inside the 10 against the Manly team. Supercoach points, Toto Kula with 188. Molly Olakawatu with 177. Daly Cherry Evans with 153 and Saab with 113. Then you had 2 other Manly players before you got to Api Coruscant on 66. Poor Daggy. What an absolute shit show that bloke had to put up with this weekend. Had to endure. How the hell can you have... He's just come back in here. I'll just repeat the last line that I had before you rejoined us.
You're a
what
consummate professional, David,
absolute
I'm sure.
shit show you had to endure this weekend.
You were supposed to finish this by now.
30 seconds into the game, Molly Olakawatu is just striding down the touchline.
That's what I should have turned off.
Ball back inside and a try within, 40 seconds of the game kicking off. It was.
But then what they do is they actually sucked me in for about 8 minutes.
Yeah, they got the shit together for about 10
and I was like,
minutes.
here we go.
They did. That was my next line. Then the next 5 or 10 minutes, they actually got the shit together, got one back, and that was about as good as it got for the poor old Tig Pies. Anytime the ball seemed to get 2 passes wide from the Manly attack, they were just carving holes through the defence for the Tigers. Even a couple of times it was just one pass off the ruck, and they were causing problems in and around that defensive line. There's just meters to be found down both edges every time it got there. Is that bad? Like, yeah, as you mentioned previously, DCE's just gifting tries to Jakey, and then they go and do it again later for Gordon. They must. I think they've. There must be. He must be a pretty good young kid. They seem to be.
Really
they seem to be really around him, don't they?
He's
to
a good player.
give him a kick last week and then give him the try.
Yeah, he must just be
this
one of
week.
he must be under a few people's wings. And Morgan, great. Like
He's got some good service out of him.
Yeah.
Like built low to the ground. He seems decent enough in
told,
defence. Croker.
Croker can go elsewhere, so I assume you were going to
Really?
see
Yeah,
not Croker.
okay.
No, who's their backup? Lawton.
Oh, Carl Lawton. Yeah,
Sorry.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Croker's been fantastic.
No, Croker has been brilliant. It's probably the only reason that's really kept the young fella out of the side. But yeah, they seem to be all about him, getting him involved in the games when he's had his 2 games. Manly checked out with about 15 minutes to go. They were still, competing, but they really weren't putting the pressure on like they were earlier in the game. Count on one hand how many players are worth mentioning from the Tigers. It was very fucking little. Clemmer, Twile, maybe Simpkins, and Appy. That's about it. Definitely Clemmer and Twile were decent, and Appy was their best. Simpkins was maybe slightly better than average. But.
And I'm not saying, and we are heading towards our award show, which I assume might be next week, actually. It'll be sometime. There is a strong argument made that Appy is close to buy of the year, I'm not saying I'm going to pick him because I don't think about this, and also Reece Walsh might win a comp. But I would dread to think of a world without Appy Coruscant in this Tigers team. Like, it is terrifyingly scary what would this Tigers team play without Appy in it.
Might have scored about 30 points all year.
Yeah, and that's legitimate.
I'm being
That is terrifying.
Being honest. Bullymore, Jake and Harper were good for the Manly side. Arthur had a pretty good game, I thought, in the halves. Sipley was very good. Again, his last 4 or 5 weeks have been fantastic out of Sipley. But the outside backs just owned this game anytime they touched it. Like, I think the lowest run meters was about 170 for anyone in the outside backs for men.
When it's touch football,
they were just carving up down the outside. Saab was great. TCE, Hamoli were brilliant, but Cooler was untouchable. He was brilliant just about every time he touched the ball in this game.
And I know I poured a little bit of cold water in last game around line speed, and it's a little bit the same here. But I had the thought in this game, can you see a world, or is it worth pursuing? Apparently they've half told Cooler he can go somewhere else if he gets a first grade gig.
Yeah, right.
But could you see a world where they're better off sticking with having a pre-season with Cooler at 1 and Turbo and Garrick at centre?
Centres, yeah.
It's a good team.
Absolutely.
I know a couple of those won't want to hear that they're not fullbacks anymore, but
and Gary can
becomes
on a
quite
wing,
scary.
Even with Tommy inside,
and
Gary
Tommy,
on a
and
wing.
then you have Brooks filtering in and out of those 3 names, plus DCE being DCE. All of a sudden, that's
Cooler
scary
seems
prospect.
much more impactful playing out of fullback than he does in
Agreed.
centre.
And
you think Tommy
we know he can
take some of his running meters away from him.
But he's a tackle breaker. He's an offloader. He can roam. He can play the
You
Joey
have to
Manu
defend
role.
a little bit more, but there's probably
he's the best centre in the game in Origin.
There's a bit
With his
less,
two
obviously a
legs
lot less
stable
running, probably not as much high impact running
So
either,
you
which would
get more
probably
out of him.
be a good way, even if you
Or
just to ease him back
his
in
job is to then
from his injuries. But
say camp on a left edge, float off Luke Brooks, wait for a hole, and fucking barge over 2 blokes.
yeah, and play second.
Pretty good at it.
He can go and play a bit of second fullback if he needs to.
Yeah.
and
if he wants
open
to,
the
he can-
game up that way.
Yeah, and probably get closer to the ruck too. I think it's a big
Makes a
call,
lot of
but
sense, actually.
it's worthwhile. I think it's worthwhile pursuing, but I'm not Anthony Seabold.
It's what, two or three games for Cooler at fullback, and he's looked very
He
good.
looks like a star in both. Admittedly, you know, a little bit down
Yeah,
in
yeah,
grade,
yeah, of
but
course.
it's brought the best. He's had his two best games of first grade back to back. Why not run with it? And really, you're talking about Harper and Parker. Like, with all due respect to them, I know I'd be just scared to face every week. The other bloke, Vega's been good, but obviously they get back the other winger, whose name escapes me. Anyway,
Tuipulotu.
He's okay.
Yes.
But I would be setting up my squad that way and seeing what you can bring to the table.
Makes sense, mate. That's very good idea. I had Cooler with 3. I had Hamoli with the 2 and DCE with the 1, but you could switch
I had
DCE and Hamoli.
What are you going to say?
Yeah, give DCE 2.
Yeah.
Olakuatu the 1.
Which probably pushes him close to the Cornella for a Daggy, haven't they? He's probably up and about there.
He would be up there.
Next up, we got...
If they'd won 2 or 3 more games, he'd probably be right up there.
Probably nearly, be in the finish. Next up, we've got the Roosters 26 putting Souths 12 out of their misery for the year. What do the stats say, Barn?
2 tries to 5, 2 out of 2 conversions played, 2 out of 5 for the Roosters. 1 out of 1 penalty attempt for the Roosters. 79% completion for both sides. 3 line breaks to 6. 35 tackle busts played 33, 4 offloads to 8. 3 forced dropouts for Souths, 1 for the Roosters. 336 tackles played 340. 10 errors to 9, 6 penalties conceded to 5. 4 ruck infringements against the Roosters and 1 inside the 10 against the Roosters. Palgo with 103 Supercoach points, Murray with 93 and Cook with 88. It's pretty good game, to be honest. But I thought the composure out of the composure and decisiveness out of the Roosters' attack was the difference. Rabbits seemed very frantic for big parts of the game, apart from Cook, who was tremendous in and around the ruck and providing massive metres in the middle. Once it seemed to get out past the forwards out to Cody and co out there, it got things got pretty frantic, and the ball did hit the ground probably too often.
Yeah, that left edge, and they got him into motion plenty of times, and without fail, Cody found the grass.
Yeah.
And I don't know who that's. It's a combination of both, but
Yeah, of course.
and by a long way. There's a few times it was overrun, underrun.
And the Roosters were just so much more organised and patient. Even though Walker was buzzing around doing what he does, he's been a good addition actually coming back the last two weeks.
Yeah.
I think he's made a big difference to their attack, which annoys the shit out of me considering they're playing the Sharks this week. But it was very competitive for the majority of the game. The Roosters' goal line defence was fantastic, especially at the start of the game.
It's the best goal defence in the comp on paper, but the last 2 weeks it's been outstanding. Even without the Walker's fuck ups,
they could have scored. Probably a little bit flattered because of some of the scrappy stuff.
There was times there where they had a good 4, 5, 6 minutes on their line, but they never once felt like
they saved 2 or 3 tries in the first 20 minutes. I think it was. Just that scramble with blokes getting 2 and 3 blokes all coming across in cover, and they just work so well laterally on their try line, and they just so much cover for each other. The defence, easily saved 2 or 3 tries, which is obviously the difference at the back end of the game. Massive difference at the back end of the game. South's outside backs really struggled to get out into the game, as we both said, but it was a direct result of both halves. They did not cover themselves in glory. Cook set up the middle very well, but the outside backs were struggling hard. The Roosters were happy, I think, to just try and match the middle and get to the edges quickly, because I think they saw some weaknesses out there, which they did expose, obviously, towards the back end of the game. Graham was the best of the backs for the South side. Totola and Sele were very good. Keon was okay, but Murray and Cook were their best 2 players by a mile. They were brilliant in the middle of the field.
Campbell Graham's playing for an injury. He has to be, because I know he was good here, but he's a couple of his defensive Swaley palmed him straight off, and couple other of his defensive efforts where he just was brushed. He wasn't doing that 6 months ago.
No.
He was not,
And he's not moving laterally
his
as well either.
I think they said it's his sternum.
It has been his sternum, for since Origin.
He's not with us.
Remember, he didn't play Origin because of his sternum.
He hasn't been with us.
But I think
at
he
his
might.
level.
I think he might be holding a leg injury as well, just because of the way he's been burnt on the outside a couple of times, which you don't generally see.
No, that's what I mean, like just there's moments in this game where I was like, that's not the Campbell Graham that we've wrapped for freaking 4 years.
Suoliti and Keary were decent, I thought. So was the Cheese. He's getting. He's been very good the last 4 or 5 weeks, considering how poor he was at the start of the year. Wong, Egan Butcher were very good. Terrell May again. He's been very impressive off the bench.
He led their run meters in about 50 minutes.
Yeah. Radley had a fantastic game, as did Billy Smith. I thought they were very good. Had a good impact on the match. Pauga was fantastic. It didn't let anyone down. He's pretty physical for a winger. And Tedesco and Walker were awesome.
Keary was fantastic. I thought Keary was outstanding here. He's just so good at bringing those outside backs into the game. Now they've worked out that's what they want to do. That's what he does.
Yeah.
He drags in the line. Not quite like Nicarima, not the same style, but he'll go deep enough where it gets them in.
Yeah, and then he sort of floats back a fraction. And then
it's not like he doesn't go through, but he'll go, right, I'm going, and then work off that. I thought he was phenomenal here, actually. I thought he was really good. But so was Walker and Teddy. No arguments there. It's funny, you watch this game, and I don't know if this sounds like a dickhead thing to say or something, but you watch... Even watching Roosters run out, and once the game's starting, they just feel like a team that knows how to play finals footy. And they know they're about to play finals footy, and it's like, right, we know what's next. And whereas the back end of these Bunnies players... And going the game, I said they'll look ragged by the end of it. They looked ragged by the end of it, as simple as that.
100%.
I just don't quite... Again, not a lot's changed. A lot of these are on long-term contracts. You've seen the stuff in the paper about Souths this week. It's a pretty simple thing for Souths. I think they're going to have to come back and say, no one gets special treatment. You're going to work your ass off. You're going to run 15 Ks at the start of the year and do this, that, and the other. And you're all going to be as fit as you can be. And that's how we're going to win the comp, because they're capable of doing it. They are. Or they're all going to spit the dummy, shit chips, and run 10th next year. I don't think there's any in between. And we saw one version this year. It's now up to people to take it themselves to prove.
Well, this was Brisbane from last year.
Yeah,
almost
was.
identical.
Yeah,
running first, or I think Brisbane were running second or third, but
our top four.
Top four halfway through the season can just fall over. I think what they win two or something out of their last 8, 11, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. It just absolutely fell off a cliff, and there were still good performances out of blokes like your Cooks and your Murrays, Sellers, Tom Burgess. I think he might have. They lost a bit of momentum when they lost him there. But
Cass had a hot run for a bit. He disappeared.
Graham carrying injury, as you said.
What they do with Ilias is interesting. Whether they continue to back him, whether we get to a world where we see Whiten and Walker in the halves.
I can't see Walker playing as a 7.
No.
So
no. But I don't know. I'm just throwing shit against the wall.
Could you get Cody Fit and play him at fullback? Play Ilias and Whiten?
Play fullback.
I reckon he'd be a better fullback than Whiten. They're talking about putting Whiten back at fullback.
I couldn't. But this is all New Zealand shit. There's no way. There is no way Whiten is going to decide he's a fullback.
Play Whiten at 13,
33.
like I've been saying for 3 years.
Well, we move Murray to an edge. You take the middle out, but hey, it's attack. The simple thing is, don't forget. 3 months ago, we were calling for Latrell to be the New South Wales fullback. So it's not like he suddenly forgot how to play. He's been injured, and then he didn't, and then he got suspended. He can play, and like I said, if he turns up next pre-season and works his ass off,
but they've been saying that for since he was 18. So,
I wouldn't be. I don't have the flaming. I don't have the freaking knives out for Latrell by any means, but they got to where you fit the deep move Latrell to 6. but then I don't quite. You're looking at then Johnson. Can Campbell Graham be a fullback?
Possibly.
Still that I don't know. We're talking shit. Who cares?
We are
Move on.
talking shit. Move on.
Roosters look good. I think Roosters are genuinely. I think there's only 5 teams I would even consider to win the comp, and Roosters are one of them.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying they should be 10-1. They're 26's chance to win the comp, but they're capable of doing it if all the shit clicks, and a few other teams play bad, because they've got the right parts in motion. I would say, and to clarify that, I would say, I don't know, off the top of my head, I don't want to try and do a mark off the top of my head, but I would say it's Penrith, Brisbane, Daylight, Melbourne, Newcastle, Roosters.
I'd probably put Melbourne in that bracket of 3.
Fair enough.
Brisbane
Fair enough. Absolutely.
and Penrith. Then a gap.
Maybe less Daylight, maybe just dusk.
Warriors. I'd probably put Newcastle in front of the Roosters, to be honest. And so that'd be my 5. I just think that the Roosters' attack can be shut down. I know Walker adds another a little bit to their attack, especially it's a bit more direct and in and around the post.
I think he's doing less dumb shit and more when it's right time. Stuff like even that kick through, he got lucky, but he's the sort of player that gets lucky. Yeah. That sort of rebounder, he caught the hand back and scored, but that's what he does.
I just sort of feel
he does those sort of shit where people go, oh,
you
fuck.
see a lot of the Roosters stuff gets done on the outside of a winger. So for mine, I'd be telling my winger to post up, and then you've got your
and work back,
and your centers work out, and your fullback cover the inside.
Yeah,
just to try to sort of shut that edge work down
and target Keary.
Absolutely. You're the winger. You stay on him. Mm-hmm. The centre and your second row are targeting. Well, your second row is targeting Keary and Walker when they get out there, and your centre's holding with your fullback coming across.
It's more. Then winning the comp will almost be like.
And their middles are a little susceptible too, to be honest. But
then winning the comp will be almost like when we won like a second grade comp when we're all 5 years past our best. It's just you get to a final.
Know what to do.
Everyone, and some people go, oh, fuck, and everyone goes, well, we're here now. Mm-hmm. Teddy knows what he's doing in front of 80,000.
Teddy's a massive
Collins knows what he's doing. Keary knows what he's doing. Manu knows what he's doing. Guzzi Crichton, we haven't even seen anywhere near it. Daylight of his best. And Terrell Mays, hasn't been there yet, but God, he's been great since. As has Egan off the bench, and they were both great. I don't know if you mentioned him. But, again, we've crapped on a bit much more than we needed to, but it's a very interesting finals game this week for the Roosters. But
Teddy for 3,
yep.
Murray with 2, and then I had either Sam Walker or Cook for the 1.
I'm going to
be controversial, won, but I thought Cook was very good.
And go Walker 2, Keary 1. But I know what you're saying with Murray. Murray and Cook were the only 2 I'd even look at, and they will both deserve
leave them out. We'll go all Roosters.
It's probably just because Cam Murray.
Keary 2.
Back row of the year or something, but you get that in the big jobs.
Keary 2, and who'd you have as the 1?
Walker.
Yep.
You happy with that?
All good.
You can argue.
I'd have 2 halves around the other way myself.
Well, flip them. No, that's what I said.
No, all done.
No, go Walker.
We're done, all right? Go damn it.
Bye. And then we got 2 Dolphins 34, Warriors 12 Saturday afternoon. Some pretty soft stuff here from the Warriors, but imagine what he's looking at. Oh.
I thought it was Warriors 10.
Oh, it probably was. Let me tell you in a sec.
Doesn't matter. 6 tries to 2. 5 out of 6 conversions, 1 out of 2 for the Warriors. 70%
it was 10.
Completion, played 75%.
In front of 35,000 people at Suncorp. Good for them.
That is
record
good.
Crowds again this year. I think Penrith had 3 or 4 straight sellouts. So.
Knights going for 3 in a row or something. Sellouts up there, 4, maybe even 4. 362 plus running metres for the Dolphins. 15 line breaks to 3. 36 tackle bust to 32. 21 offloads for the Dolphins, 8 for the Warriors. 1 forced dropout from both teams. 311 tackles played, 332. 41 ineffective tackles from the Warriors. 12 errors to 14. 2 penalties conceded to 5. 2 ruck infringements to 1. 3 inside the 10 against the Dolphins. Cody Nikorima with 103 Supercoach points. Tessie New with 97. Then 3 other Dolphin players before you got to Curran on 80 for the Warriors. Real strong performance from the Dolphins. First 15 minutes, the Warriors did well, I thought, in defence. A lot of attacking pressure from the Dolphins. They were all over the top of them there for that first 15 minutes, and I think it took a bit of energy out of the Warriors, realistically, considering the lineup that they put out there. Couple of nice try-saving tackles in that first sort of 20-minute period from both teams. They've saved a couple of tries there. Just seemed like the Warriors couldn't get any decent amount of ball to apply any pressure in that first half. The Dolphins just seemed to have the ball all the time in that first half of this game. They made a lot of errors as well between both teams early in this match. It was very scrappy in that first sort of 20 minutes, half an hour. But really high energy from the Dolphins, good leg speed, and I thought O'Sullivan was really busy early. I thought he was fantastic, and he's probably a big part of setting up this game for the Dolphins at the start. He's very good. When the game was tough, the Warriors seemed to just die in that last 20 minutes. They had no energy. I don't know if it was an interest thing or whether they were just completely gassed by about half an hour into this game, and they never really got back into it. They put in some effort when they were in good try scoring opportunities and the good ball, but when it was in the grind, they just didn't seem very interested at all, or completely lethargic. So I don't know what that was about. But
And the back end tries were all a result of that. You don't generally see Niokore and co getting just walked over or busted open. So, but my concern is it's still. You mentioned how much they dug into those edges there, and they're the edges that are going to be up against Crichton and Tungo next week.
Yep.
So, that's where I'm a little left cold with the Warriors now, and that's not a knock on what they've achieved this year, and they've had a great season, and I hope they keep improving.
Throw Taruva and Soto in there.
Yeah, I think there's, like I said, I'm not panicking about this particular result. I'm panicking about the fact that I think the tank's empty.
Yeah.
And hopefully they found a fucking very nice pump for the 5 blokes that weren't here.
Yeah, I think those guys will. You will see some good effort out of especially in the middle of the field there with some of those guys that they did rest. But I still obviously we'll get to that. But I don't know if it's going to be good enough for Penrith. I thought Tuapiki was good for the Warriors at fullback. Volkman had a decent game. Sirinen and Niokore were okay. Montoya and Lussick were good.
Yeah, he's actually been pretty good, Freddie Lussick.
Yeah, he has been since he's come back. Barnett and Pompey were very good, and Curran was their best player. There was a couple of times where the Dolphins were streaking away to score, and nobody was chasing, except for Curran. And he chased them as far as he could, and he put in plenty of effort. The entire Dolphin squad was good. I don't think they had a bad player in this one. They were all fantastic. The outside backs just absolutely carved them up. 177 metres was the lowest running metres by any of the back five. They're just running all over the top of them. I thought Max Plath had a really good game for the Dolphins. Kafusi was very good as well in the middle of the field. Wallace was fantastic.
Where's his ball playing come from? Somebody's decided he's freaking...
He's always had an offload in him, but now he's playing before the line and
now apparently
in the line. And
someone there, but I've got no analogy.
So, maybe.
Yo, I was going to say Yo or Carrigan, but...
the halves were outstanding, and Asako was an absolute standout as well.
How good is Nicarima? Is this a career year for Cody Nicarima?
Yeah, I think so.
He's now got to be first choice 5'8", heading into next year.
You would think so.
Ahead of, with all due respect to Katoa.
And Turi Martin.
Is he coming up there, is he?
Yeah, well, he's Martin back.
Tamari plays for the Warriors.
Oh, sorry,
yeah. They've got someone else coming. Now Herbie's going and Flegler's going. But no, they should build they can build their team around these halves.
And Katoa's a year or two away anyway, and by then...
He's 18. That's right. Give him 2 years and get him back in, 2 years under Bennett and get him back in. He's been phenomenal. And again, he's got that ability to get through the line before he passes. He pokes his head through, and then next minute...
Or he gets on the outside of his defender.
Yeah.
With that pace and footwork that he's got.
He's just
he just seems hard to get hold of too because he's so
he's
small.
just about as good in this form as good a running half as there is in the comp. Yeah, obviously Munster DCE, maybe Luai ahead of him, I suppose, but it's he's in that conversation.
It was outstanding. I gave Sullivan the 3 just because I thought when the game was in the balance, he was the one that was really, like at the start of the game, he was the one that was setting everything up. His kicking game was fantastic. Nicarima with the 2, but you could quite easily swap those 2 around if you wanted to, and Asako with the 1.
I went essentially the same order. I had Wallace in the conversation. It's just because of his ball playing, but I'm happy with your. Let's go Nicarima, O'Sullivan, Azako.
Okay,
sound fair?
Yep.
Yeah. Anything to take from this from Warriors? You just forget it and move on.
No, it was basically them just getting through this week.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier with the Brisbane and Storm, they weren't really dead set on what the outcome was. They just wanted to try and keep as many players fit and get them through this week and into the finals. So. Then
we got to a team that was not resting everyone.
No.
And won 44-12.
We're pretty keen on putting a result on too, by the looks of it. Fucking clinical, man. 8 tries to 2, 6 out of 8 conversions for Penrith, 2 out of 2 for the Cowboys. 84% completion, played 74%, 702 plus running metres and 120 plus post-contact metres for the Panthers. 10 line breaks to 3, 73 tackle busts to 24, 23 offloads to 5, 1 forced dropout by the Cowboys. 317 tackles played, 322, 8 errors to 9, 4 penalties conceded by Penrith, 7 conceded by the Cowboys. 1 ruck infringement to both sides, 1 inside the 10 played 2. A sin bin for the Cowboys, Cleary with 149 Supercoach points, Critter with 124, Taruva with 101, and Brian To'o with 100. And then Luciano got 88.
Did he really? Good on him.
Mm-hmm.
He might be a good Supercoach starter next year.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we'll get to that next year.
Would have been good if you picked him up as soon as he come back. Actually.
Yeah.
Been good.
But Cowboys came to this game, right? They knew they had to win.
Yep.
They knew they had to step up.
Mm-hmm.
They knew they'd do something different to beat this Penrith team. They went on the field. There was no... And we've seen a template laid. We saw DC kick to the ground, take the back 3 out of it. We've seen...
Offloading.
Get an upload back through the middle. Make the Kennys of the world work.
Sing the ball to the edges quickly.
We've seen all of this stuff that we've prognosticated on, and they turned up and did fuck all. They turned up and were deer in the headlights.
Tried
and
to roll through the middle and got
played the most boring I've ever seen and got beaten by the best football team, possibly of all time, of playing boring football, and beaten well. And
complete domination, man. They dismantled a team on the verge of the 8. They, as you said, had everything to play for. Extremely impressive performance for Penrith. Dominated 70 out of the 80 minutes. It was only like a 10-minute period out of the second half when obviously the coach's words were still bouncing around inside their heads, where the Cowboys actually had a pretty good crack, and they were still playing through the middle for whatever reason. But they did play pretty well for 10 minutes after half-time. But they couldn't even get close to Penrith. Nowhere near it. Liam Martin's eyes were just rolling around in his head. Just fucking smashing blokes left, right and centre. Love to see that kind of shit. It was brilliant. He had a target on anyone that came anywhere near him.
But and respect to them, like they turned up and from the start of the week, they've obviously just gone, fuck them, we're going to be minor premiers. Let's set the tone and let's get in. We've all had a rest. We're all like, let's get going.
And we'll show them this is going to... I'm assuming if I'm Ivan Cleary at the end of this game, you're walking into the sheds and going, "This is the minimum performance that we put in from now to the rest of the final series." So this is what you've just set the standard, and that's the lowest you blokes are going to put out for the next 4 weeks or whatever it is. Oh, watch out!
Yep. The Udi's here. Here she comes. For those watching at home on YouTube. I forgot one of my battery packs. That's why I've been looking weirdly at the camera. But here she is. Can you come wave to the camera?
It is in our house.
Todd Payton in the press conference.
Say hello to everyone. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Todd Payton in the press conference absolutely gave it to the Cowboys.
Oh, really?
just
I didn't see
no
that.
effort. Nobody did anything.
What did Benji say about
Only bloke
Tigers?
having a go was Luciano and fucking. I didn't see that one actually, and it was probably well deserved, really, because the effort just wasn't anywhere near where it needed to be to even be competitive with Penrith. But they were clinical. They forced them out of the game. Cotter and McLean were okay. Laybutt was the best of the backs, and he's
He's had a
looking
couple
more
good
and more
yeah.
like a first grader
player.
every time he goes out. The halves were shit house for the Cowboys. They were terrible. Didn't seem interested at all. Griffin Neem and Luciano were the best for the Cowboys. Fisher and Lindsay Smith were good in the middle of the field. I thought Somerton had a good game.
I was going to ask you about this because have we seen the last of Sonny Luke?
I think so.
They didn't. They
If you're going
brushed
to
him
put
here.
that kid up,
They brushed him
he
here,
was good.
and they've had an opinion Somerton,
He
and
was
they've
good.
got Riley Smith, I believe, in the ranks. A few others in the ranks, but Mitch Kenny's had a good year.
He's a
I
bit more
suspect-
physical.
Well,
His
that was the
service
The
seems a
excuse
bit
was
better.
they wanted more starch in defence.
Mhm.
So that's just an excuse.
His
I
service
think
seems quicker.
from the spruik that he came into this year with, we might not even see him at the club next year.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised
Given
if
they've
they
got
moved
three
him.
others hookers on the roster.
Garner and Cogger were very good. Taruva, Toto, Martin were great. Like they
was
just
rich,
played out of
actually.
their
It was-
skins.
Watching this, Crichton was roaming much more than I've seen from him of late. And actually,
Crichton was my man of the match.
but he's my match too.
I fucking
But
thought
we
he
may
was
as well get there. But
brilliant.
it led Big Vinny
And you
V
can't
to
leave Cleary
Big
and
Vinny
Yellow out,
D
though,
prognosticated that maybe they're looking at perhaps playing Crichton at 6,
Right.
and they haven't done this.
I don't
And then having
don't think you
just to
can.
play Peachy, but
think you can.
Cog was absolutely brilliant here, so you can't.
I don't think
I
you
didn't
can.
care, but it was just.
You
But when you watch when
Like, it
when
makes
he
a
said
bit
it
of
live,
sense if you're
when
running-
you watch
if
this
he's
game
running
the
the
way
ball.
Crichton played, I thought, oh, okay, they're going to try and maybe essentially play two fullbacks, 6 and 1 have Edwards but they did anyway, so you don't have to change
You
too
just
much.
saw how good he was in the air with that kick across to the
Some
centre.
of his stuff he does. It feels like it's in second gear. Like it feels like he could jump 8 foot if he had to, but he doesn't have to.
The way he can,
so he just gets up and smiles.
his footwork and his power when he's out in the centres.
Yeah.
I think you've got to leave him out there realistically. Critter 3 points every day of the week. I thought Cleary was the conductor again with 2, and I had Yo with the 1.
I think Cogger has to get something out of this.
Cogger, okay.
It was great because he did. I think he had 3 try assists, 3 line break assists, but they were all crucial stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this again, when you put through the spectrum what you said about O'Sullivan,
Yep. Was when it was.
at the start of the game, Cogger was the one, and admittedly a couple were last balls, but I think he fit great in this team. Having said what I said,
Leave, poor
it was a
Isaiah
fun
out.
game to watch because I watched this game with up at the Pio with Mrs.'s netball final or whatever.
Yep.
But watched it with Elijah, and Elijah watched all 80 minutes, and it's fun to watch through a 7-year-old's eyes. Him cheer footy, and it was sort of cool to watch that. My favourite was every time Leone got the ball, he'd yell out, "He's steaming like a train!" So that's my new thing now.
Right.
He loved Moses, but and Nathan. Everything's Nathan, and I see them play down. Like
It's
we're
a bit
just
hard
we're-
not to talk about Nathan.
Well, we're just the thing is we're just bitter old drunks at the pub, but when you go watch them play footy in the park and how much it means to some of these kids, what this team means, it's like, okay, this is, and we have a whole generation inspired allegedly by Benji Marshall in 05 and this, that and the other. And I think even the blokes playing this game would say they were back then. And now there's a whole generation that have shit mullets and terrible mustaches, but are inspired by, including my son, but they're inspired by this Panthers team. And I think it was cool to sit with Mum Randy and watch it and have him commentate.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you watch the whole game, but the Leota thing was funny. And Crichton and Bizza, they're the ones. But they know, it's just good to see. This is the generational team. Yeah. And I know Action Bailey's had his moment about all this a few weeks ago when he was sunning his nuts or whatever he's doing up there. I don't even know why I've got tears coming out my eyes now. But it was cool to see it sort of hit me like, hey, this is this best team of this era have generated this interest in football.
Massive impact on.
Unfortunately, they're now going
guys,
to have to try and be good players in the biggest nursery in the world and all end up elsewhere. But it's really cool. But Penrith on target, if they're $2 to win the comp, I'd say that's fair.
Yeah, I think they're still 245 or something. They have been for the last few weeks, but probably
Interesting.
shortens after this weekend. After this performance, you'd have to have them $1.90.
Well, yeah. But you'd have to say as well that if you can get $1.70 in a grand final, I'd rather take that and speculate this far out,
Yeah, of course.
given how badly we've punted this year. Anything else we add from this? Like, from what we said, though, you could, that 1 point, you could have, if you'd said 10 blokes, and
absolutely.
this is the problem with trying to give
Yeah,
Daggy
Martin,
points to Penrith.
Taruva,
Fish,
Summerton.
Leota, like the two we mentioned, the front rows are fantastic. Tango was good. Yeah, welcome back. Edwards was good. Anyway, yeah, he's 193 try assists, scored him no points in this game.
193 tries.
And then I went home drunk and watched the Dragons and the Knights 32-12. Another game that was a decent enough game for half hour. But it just... confidence is such... Do your stats and I'll say my little shit.
2 tries for the Dragons, 6 for the Knights. 2 out of 2 conversions played, 3 out of 6. 1 out of 1 penalty attempts for Newcastle. 63% completion for the Dragons. 74% for Newcastle. 1 line break to 6. 27 tackle busts played, 47. 6 offloads to 9. 3 forced dropouts by the Dragons. 371 tackles played, 339. 18 errors played, 13. 3 penalties conceded to 5. 1 inside the 10 against the Dragons. A sin bin from both teams. Young with 104 Supercoach points. Jacob Saifidi with 84. Then 2 other Newcastle players before you got to Sloan on 76.
Confidence is a wonderful thing in rugby league. And watching this Newcastle team in this game, and it was, again, it's all through the spectrum of the last game of the year, and Dragons don't really care that much. But there is no reason this Newcastle team hasn't changed that much for what they put out last year, and especially this one here without Hastings, Ponga and co. Fuck, they played good footy in this game. And you watch some of the movements, the try that... The couple of backline plays in the second half that went back through the middle there. The new Brown try and a Marzu try. They were just standard backline plays, but they were delivered crisply. Ball hit the ground. No one panicked. They went back, did it again, hit the spot, scored the try. And it's just like, that hit me again watching back the replay again today, but it hit me on the night. Like, that new Brown try was a good try. The other ball that Dylan Lucas popped. Is it him that popped it or anyway? Popped it on the inside. It's like these are players that are just confident foot. Like they're all first graders. Every first grader can play footy, but they're playing good footy, and there was no panic. There was no sort of trying to push too much or push too little. It's just we know where we're going. This is where we're getting at, and they did that.
Yep.
And this was just a classic case of it. Like they're missing their 4 best players, you'd say, if you had to argue that. And they, by the end of it, they were in second gear and looking like a quality team. And I just think it isn't amazing what confidence does, because this team last year couldn't beat a drum.
Well, it helps when you start the way they did. The first 10 minutes, they were just breaking holes everywhere, like all across the defensive line.
When I think I messaged you and Dane and maybe when Saifidi scored in the first minute, said, Dragons here to upbeat the Tigers' intensity for the weekend. But
yeah, well, it looked like it was going to be a real long day for them, but it wasn't as bad as it could have gotten.
I thought they played pretty well for about an hour.
I'd give them 40, but yeah,
40's fair. 40's fair.
Probably. Didn't end up as bad as it looked like it was going to get. The lovely chip and chase from Brent Arndt.
Beautiful.
Yep. But that's about when he switched off. I think he did. Yeah. He wasn't really keen to get too involved towards the back end of the game. The Ravalawa's try was pretty nice as well. That even though that was the end of their day, but the 2 tries they did score were actually
that was
good.
That was the best grounding I saw all weekend until I saw Dom Young
until
about
the back end
20
of this
later.
game. Yeah. Well, I've lost my spot. Where was I? But that was about as good as it got for them. Newcastle defended pretty well, I thought, when they needed to. They were decent in the middle. They weren't as strong as they have been through the middle of the field recently, but did a decent job. Adam Elliott was really good again. He's really developed his passing game as well playing as that 13 role ball player, which is not something we've seen a lot of him out of. Well, a lot of out of him. We've seen, like, you've seen these offloads and stuff, but he's really starting to play more as a ball player and setting up stuff before he gets to the line.
I think that time he spent at Canberra at hooker probably helped that.
Yeah, maybe. But it was just the effort, like the strong running and the passing once the ball got out wide, and it just absolutely killed the Dragons. Like two of the best finishes you ever want to see in the space of, 7 minutes or something from Dominic Young to finish off the game. One of them is upside down, and the second one is...
How he scored that. The upside down one on his back without, like...
And the second
amazing.
one, he was fucking back to front and inside out. Like, it's just it's facing it in the total opposite direction, and somehow still is able to... The put down was a bit iffy on that second one. I thought he probably dropped it before it hit the
If that was a
ground.
Tigers game, it would have been disallowed. I'll tell you now, it'll be disallowed.
But
here we
the
are.
acrobatic skills probably deserve some points. So I thought Sloan and Sully were good. Burns and Laurie and Jack DeBellin did plenty of work in the middle, but didn't amount to a great deal. Daniel Sayafidi and Elliott were good. Throw Croker in there as well. But the back five were just brilliant. Again, another game dominated by the outside backs. Mazu was very good. Gamble had a terrific game, and he has probably
It's a terrific season.
last
This is
3 or 4 weeks. He's really,
it's a
but he's
career
been
year.
even better the last 3 or 4 weeks.
The best thing they've done is back him, and again, competence is a great thing.
Yep.
But another running half who's willing to just get involved, play within what he does.
Yep.
You know, he's short kicking. He sticks to his short kicks and trying to be in the right
Aggressive
spot.
running.
Yeah, and what a year he's had.
Tuala and Jacob Sayafidi were very good. Brown had a very good game, I thought.
I don't understand how he didn't get more of a crack at
Yeah.
Bulldogs, because he was good for the Tigers. He was good here.
And Dominic Young was outstanding.
Yep.
I think I gave him the 3 points. I just thought, obviously those two finishes were brilliant. He's up around 200 metres again. I thought he was fantastic. I gave Gamble the 2. I thought he was a big part of what they did, especially down that right-hand edge, and Jacob Sayafidi the 1.
Yeah, cool. Let's go with that. Kudos to them. I enjoy watching them play. Lockie Miller had a pretty good outing. Probably his last NRL game.
Yeah.
Particularly unlucky to get sin bin, but it probably
It
was
was
one of
a
those ones
sin
that had
bin.
to be. But actually, it was interesting though. And Vossi said it. They appealed, and he wasn't wrong that he was still completing the tackle.
Yeah.
From the first time round. Like, it's almost like double jeopardy. How do you get sin bin for a tackle you're still in the middle of making when the ball comes back? I just thought that was interesting, but anyway, we get to Sunday afternoon where the Titans 34 beat the Bulldogs 30. Did they get to 30, did they?
I should have won by heaps more. Seriously. Anyway, 6 tries to 5, 5 out of 6 conversions, played 5 out of 5 for the Dogs. A missed 2-point field goal attempt by the Bulldogs, 73% completion, played 68% for the Bulldogs. 138 plus running metres and 137 plus post-contact metres for the Titans. 7 line breaks to 4, 45 tackle busts to 35, 15 offloads to 9, 1 forced dropout by the Bulldogs. 235 tackles, played 329 for the Bulldogs. 13 errors to 15, 2 penalties conceded to 3, 2 ruck infringements to 4. Kieran Foran with 129 Supercoach points, Josh Adokar with 102, and Cruz Lemming with 90.
Add Kieran Foran to the list of blokes that have had a revival year.
Hasn't he?
Fantastic.
Very good.
I thought in my head he had a hat trick earlier in the year, but this was his first hat trick apparently.
First
He had a
hat-trick,
double.
yeah.
I remember he had a double, maybe
He
against
did.
Manly or something. But anyway,
Entertaining game, very frantic style of play from both teams that led to plenty of points, but quite a few errors as well, with the ball just being thrown around all over the place. Titans played a little more controlled and consistent, and I thought they controlled the game for big parts of this one. Obviously, the Dogs hit back at the back end, levelling up the scores a little bit, but if you need a salesman, sign up Kieran Foran. You're just selling dummies left, right, and centre.
Well, you know who was buying them. Actually, I'm going to just write that in for Popline. Actually,
And yeah, just cruising past people after he's.
well, Villy apparently can't read a dummy to save his life.
I'm pretty sure the first try he threw about 4 dummies.
Yeah.
He went left, right, left.
What about Luke Thompson's effort? A couple of those where he came straight through and he went, "Oh, there he is."
Yep. See
Which
you
way
later.
did he go, George?
Well
Which way
done.
did he go?
And then yeah, charge through hat trick. It's first hat trick of his career apparently.
Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. Great to see. Josh Adokar flying down the wing.
Well,
how good is
when you
that bloke?
the thing
in
is,
full
when
flight?
actually when they got 30, you'd see, 18 points were on the back of Fox. So
Yeah.
this was his best game.
But him just screaming
Oh,
down the
it's
field,
unreal.
is brilliant. And he looked as fit
second
as
one he
he's
scored,
been all year.
where he beat 8 blokes and then 8 tackle busts and this, that, and the other. That was tremendous.
Yeah. AJ had a couple of really nice, beautiful touches.
I'm glad
actually.
they're trying to shop him back to the Tigers because we could use him.
Yeah, absolutely could. AJ with a couple of beautiful touches, passing inside and outside, and just supporting through the middle of the field, created some opportunities. Both teams were like sort of 50% good, 50% bad, realistically at different times of this game. Max King and Blake Wilson were awesome, I thought, for the
I
the
like
Dogs.
Blake Wilson, as I've said.
Moran, Waddell and Kikiao, yeah. Burton did a decent job. But yeah, Max King and Wilson, absolutely the standouts. And Josh Adokar had the best game of his season by a fair
Does
way,
Burton
I
end
thought.
up in the centres
I think so.
eventually? He's a centre,
So
isn't
they've got to find 2 halves. That's the problem.
he? Jay Lillo.
Yeah.
I think they're happy with Sexton. I wouldn't be unhappy with Sexton.
Yeah, he's been okay since he's come back. Kelly and Keeney at fullback was good, I thought. Cleese Haas had a decent game. Cruz Lemming was very good, as was Brimson. Thought David Fafita had a very good game as well. But Tino and Foran were the 2 standout. Tino was on a mission just to grab anything that came anywhere near. The amount of effort that bloke put in for the first 50 or 60 minutes of this game was tremendous. But Foran was the standout with his hat trick, and I think he set one up as well. So 3 points for mine. Tino with 2, and Josh Adokar has to get the 1, I would imagine.
I was going to give him 2 just for my own amusement, but
no,
I'm fine
we'll
with
give
that.
Tino 1.
Tino won. Tino was phenomenal again.
But
But
it's
Fox,
expected from him.
but Fox, again, we grade on a curve here. What do you make of the female referees for the weekend, dare I ask?
I thought the second one was better than the first one.
Yeah.
That's about as far as I'll go. No, realistically,
There's a simple
little bit behind the play at
there's
times.
there's a
but
simple physiological
yes,
physical attribute that women can't run as fast as men. I know, some women don't want to hear it, but elite, primed, train everyday men are going to be at a much faster tempo than the fittest woman, with all due respect, and that is why, unfortunately, it will be that I can't see them refereeing a grand final in the near future. Is all
no,
I'll
I
say.
wouldn't think so.
Yeah,
The first performance was hard. You probably 50-50 average at best, and the second one I thought she was pretty good early in the game, but by the end of the game she was a fair way
get
behind the
tired
play.
and all the rest of it. Yeah, well, we might just leave it there without offending anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget to...
We've probably offended someone, but
Someone will get outraged, who cares? We've got the last game of the round, which is the Sharks 24, the Raiders 6. I'm sure you're very keen to talk about, but I just want to quickly plug now before I forget. Social media,
Sure.
Instagram, Threads, Facebook. Do you want a break? Are you right?
no, good.
I'm
You need a
finished.
beer.
I do need a beer.
I'll go get a beer.
You do that.
You keep
No,
plugging.
Instagram, well, I'm going to mention you in a minute. That's fine. I had a piss as well. All right. No one plugs better than the old Dagster. You don't hear fucking Thirsty Morrow off for a piss halfway through the Bunnings scoreboard. No, this guy does. So here we are on the... what are we talking about?
You were plugging
So,
threads
social
and
media, do that
socials
on
and-
Facebook. But also just mention Lavishka, who wrote in and said that the Tapanai hit on Walsh reminded him of the scene from The Waterboy, which made me laugh last
very
week.
good,
There's some other good stuff off socials, but leave us some feedback. You'll be watching on YouTube. Leave some feedback, especially because next week we're going to start doing our bottom 4 review. Sorry about that, but I'll drag you back out to do that. We might have done a deck, actually.
Yeah, sounds good.
But leave some feedback below about what you made of the bottom four: Tigers, Dragons, Bulldogs, and Dolphins.
No.
Someone else who's better at their job, probably Thirsty Morrow, can tell us who was the bottom four. But leave us some feedback because we're going to do our bottom four review. We're going to have reviews of the matches this week, obviously, and look towards the elimination finals. Oh, Titans, of course.
Titans.
If you are one of those fans, especially get in touch because I wouldn't mind speaking to some of you how you feel.
On, for, and against.
The challenge I'm going to throw out to both of us is we have to find either a good news story or something positive from all of these bottom 8 teams.
Right, okay.
So have a think about that.
Yeah, right.
Which some of them are quite easy, some are less so. But let's make it not all die. I'm depressed enough, mate. I follow any team ever to finish lower than the wooden spoon the year after. So
yeah, how good's that?
Find something to cheer me up about something or other. So that's what can come next week, and we're going to quickly get back to
Sharks and the Raiders.
That's the one, 24-6.
5 tries to 1, 2 out of 5 conversions, played 1 out of 1 for Canberra. Missed field goal attempt for Canberra, 76% completion, played 70%, 107 plus running metres for the Sharks, 4 line breaks to 3, 48 tackle busts to 31, 7 offloads to 8, 1 forced dropout to 2, 330 tackles, played 388. Both teams made 12 errors. Both teams had 1 ruck infringement, and there was a send-off. Nicho Hines with 127 Supercoach points, Jack Williams with 86, and then 7 other Cronulla players before you got to Rapana on 66.
Must have been a happy boy.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Nervous for a bit of this?
Not
First
particularly.
half was tough, or just never...
The first try from Canberra, I was worried there for about 5 minutes or so, but the Sharks really seemed to... I know the majority of the first half, Canberra were winning the field position battle, but that was coming more off the back of Fogarty's kicking game than anything else, which didn't concern me as much as if they'd been making breaks through the middle of the field.
Like Canberra have felt for the last 6 weeks that, they can get field position in the game, but then they have no point of attack by Fogarty. This is a Canberra team that, as we said, the Tigers should have
White and threatened once or twice, but yeah.
No, and did make it, but even White's couple of breaks was soft as shit Shark stuff as well. But
Correct. Another week, another very tough, gritty performance. Both these teams basically played the same first half they played the week before against different opposition. They came in it for a fight and they fought for every inch through the middle of the field. There was some strong running and defence from both sides. I thought the Raiders, as I said, probably had the better of the first half for most of it, but it was mostly Fogarty's kicking game. He just seemed to be kicking it that 10 or 15 metres further than what Hines or Trindle were. Yep. And it made a big difference in the field position.
I believe it's, next year his 3 years is up. He might be in demand, Jamal Fogarty.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are some
very
clubs
good kicking game.
Who could very much use him.
And nice short passing game, So there's definitely some skills there. Let the Raiders play on the front foot for a big part of the first half. Couple of big defensive plays from the Sharks, which has been a bit unusual for them. They don't generally pull out the massive defensive plays, but that the break with Nicho on Sebastian Chris to push him onto the sideline and stop that one, and then Katoa with just before he got dumped on his head, that take that he took on the goal line.
Yeah,
the way he got up, like that was threatening as, and he just cleared everyone, picked it up, and then got dumped on his head, unfortunately, after he took that one. And Tracy cutting down Whiten when he broke into the backfield, and Tracy was able to round him up without anything else happening after the back of that. And they were 3 big moments for the Sharks in this one. Obviously, the Sharks put on points at the back end when it was 12-13, and
to put them all in perspective, they're all at a time when it's 6-4. So the back end blew out, but at the time, you look at it now, and this gets a lot in rugby league reviews, but at the time, they were clutch plays. Yeah,
absolutely. And there was 2 or 3 tries at the back end with the Sharks. It was 12-13, but they'd really ramped up. The Sharks had really ramped up the tempo about 5 to 10 minutes earlier than the send-off, with Brayley, especially Brayley, getting out of dummy half and pushing pressure through the middle with blokes backing up the likes of McGuinness, Nakora, and that pushing through that middle.
Yep.
And then they scored, and then you go down. Canberra went down the other end, and then obviously that was the send off. But I think the Sharks would have continued on their way. May not have been 24. It might have been 18 or 16 or something to 6. But I still think they would have scored another one of those tries at the back end of this game because they seem to get right on top about 20 minutes into that 15 minutes into that second half. Sharks' attack wasn't great, but the Raiders wasn't either. So what do you say about that, really? Two of the Sharks' tries were pretty simple. Just balls turned on the back on the inside, which is they're going to have to be better in attack, obviously, coming up against this Roosters team this week. The Raiders did let in two pretty soft tries there, which wasn't great. But I thought Young, Saulo and Whitehead were good for the Raiders side. Trey Mooney probably had one of his better games that he's ever played in first grade. Fogarty and Rapana were very good. And Wolford, near 60 tackles, 61 tackles or something. Ridiculous. And Whiten was a threat out in the centres. He broke him open a couple of times.
It's almost
out
like
there.
he should have been there for the last couple of years.
Maybe. I thought Tracy, Trindle and Nakora were decent. Brayley had a very, very good game. Mulatano was good as well. McGuinness was strong again. He's been tremendous for, 8-10 weeks now.
Yep.
Just ripping in every game. Williams had a fantastic
I was
game.
going to say Jack.
He came on and
Jack
changed.
McGuinness. Jack Williams.
Changed
He's
the
almost
tempo through
like
the middle.
that hole he hit with McGuinness all over him, and I thought just watching it was McGuinness. And
he was pushing blokes off, and he was making very good meters.
If he's going to get in and do that same sort of work, that's good.
Hines was brilliant. I gave Ramey the man of the match in this.
Wow. Okay.
I thought he was fucking tremendous with what he did in this game. The amount of times that he was. Every time they saw the play broke down, he was the bloke taking the inside ball and running straight at front rowers. Didn't give a shit. Constantly a threat on the edges, breaking open all sorts. Gave Whiten headaches out there. He was tracking back through the middle of the field, and I gave Ramian the man of the match. Nico with 2, and then I had either Jack Williams or Wolford for the 1.
Yeah, that's a good question. Give it to Williams. They did win by 20.
Yeah.
But the fact
Wolford making 60 odd tackles.
Ramian must have been good for Nico not to get 3. So.
Oh, he's brilliant in the air. He was just causing all sorts of problems. 11 tackle busts, I think it was, 200 and something meters. And he was constantly turning the ball, taking the inside.
Give it to Wolford, actually.
61 tackles.
Looking through this and looking through everything else as well.
But
63 officially.
I noticed probably 4 or 5 times where the play broke down, and the only bloke around that wanted the ball was Ramian, and he was running it straight back into the middle of the thing. And I just thought he was tremendous.
No, brilliant. Do you want any stock in Canberra next week?
No, fuck no.
No, me neither. So that is it, Barn. We've done it. 27 rounds, all reviewed in depth each and every week. Shake your hand. There you go.
Let's do that.
So we do have to wrap up with one more pot plant. Have you got one here?
Going straight for the pot plant. All right, I've gone with Did from. It was a pick of either of the halves for the Cowboys. I thought they were terrible. 3 runs in 80 minutes, 7 missed tackles, 2 errors. Just wasn't interested, and most everything he touched was pretty bad. I'm
going to pot plant William and Kikau.
Yep.
I think since he's come back, if you went and looked at his 3 games, even go watch the 4-minute packages on NRL.com, I reckon he'd be watching someone stride over in most of the tries the Bulldogs have conceded.
Yeah.
And
he'd definitely be in shot somewhere.
4 and walked straight past him 3 times. So I think we can pot plant him this week. That said, it is the week. It was the week of they just opened the nursery and it gave a 2-for-1 deal this week. So that was a Vossi line. I'm quite proud of that, actually. And as a result, I'm going to slap the Cowboys because they had to have brought something to the table. They decided they're just going to turn up at the table and sit around for a bit and get beaten. So disappointed in them. Do you have a slap?
Big one of those was Chad. The other half, the Cowboys. They were so bad, considering how good we know that they can play. 2 runs from Chad in 80 minutes, 8 missed tackles and an error. Another one just wasn't interested, didn't want to take the ball to the line. provided nothing for his outside man. All they did was shovel it to drink water for the night and go, "You do something, bro." Like, it's just like, come on, like fucking have a crack, have a run. Do
There's
something.
an interesting. I just think there's an interesting come up and say of the Cowboys from where they came from top 4 last year to where they are. There's rumours before the year started that they were trying to crowbar Townsend out. I'd be interested to see what's where that heads next year, whether he ends up somewhere else or what's around. Like end of the day, what's around? Offer Luai $2 million.
You see any halves come through that system? No,
Where's the other labour? Where's he?
I think he's retired, hasn't he?
He's all right for P&G. Anyway, let's salute. Have you got someone to salute?
Yeah, Kieran Foran. First hat trick. He was selling dummies left, right, and centre. And same game, Toto Caller. There's 2 of them. It was his best performance I've seen out of him in first grade. And it's like the way he runs is just so balanced. It just looks so natural. Like, it just looks like everything just lines up and it's just
There's
perfect
3 this
the way
weekend
that
where I noticed that.
he runs.
Him, Failungo, like incredible speed off the
absolutely.
mark. And then the try Khan Pereira scored where he just jogged past.
He's another one.
Where he just jogged past him looking at him.
Just looks like poetry in motion when they're moving.
They were just all 3 were just super. I'm going to salute... You know what? Just to make all the Panthers, I'm going to salute the Penrith Panthers. The 3rd minor premiership in 4 years.
Fucking oath, yeah.
Did it impressively again. As I've made the case for, that they're probably the best team of the modern era, and they were outstanding, and they were good to watch. And the fact, like watching it through, I guess, the spectrum, watching it with a young fella, added something different to that this week, and full respect to them and what they've done in this Western Sydney community across all facets of it. So, well done, Penrith.
Mm-hmm.
What can I say?
Not much.
Let's sign off, and then we're going to preview finals time. Thanks everyone that's listened to all year. We've made it through from the 5-hour season preview all the way through 27 rounds. I want to thank, and obviously we thank the others later, but I want to thank especially Ollie who drifted in and out, Dane who was a guest, GT for all his statistician stuff. We've got the Daggy Award ceremony in a couple of weeks. Yeah, he might have fucked it all up.
Might have left Tarpanay out of the spreadsheet again.
Right, we'll hold that one. I want to thank me for all the hard work I do, and especially Barney, because he's very good at what he does.
Thank
and
you,
I couldn't do it without you, my friend.
No, couldn't do without you either. Rugby League merch, PCTC, Tiving. Anyone who listens, realistically, we enjoy coming out here and having a chat, but it takes people that get involved and want to
Exactly.
listen to our content and give us a bit of feedback.
Make us relevant.
So
But,
please get involved. Give us a bit
absolutely.
more feedback.
Do all
It's
that
one
stuff.
thing that we are missing.
Yeah. Get involved. Yeah, absolutely. That's all I can say. But thanks, everyone. We'll be back in a minute to preview round 1 of the finals.